Call the member for Indi.
Thank you so much for your indulgence, Deputy Chair. Colleagues, I would like to acknowledge the work of the committee and the Secretariat, and particularly to thank Dr McVeigh, Member for Groom, for his leadership and to congratulate him on his promotion, and hope we can continue to work together on this really important topic. And I'd also like to acknowledge and welcome onto the committee the members for Gippsland, Hinkler and Forest, and look forward to their contribution. And for those who haven't already actually understood how important the regions are, and consequently this inquiry is, that rural Australia is responsible for 1/3 of total employment in this country, and just 1/3 of our economic output, but about 2/3 of all our exports by value. And regional capitals are home to about 1/4 of all Australians. So tonight we're talking about a really significant part of our population. And I've absolutely been delighted to play a role on this committee. I'm glad we've tabled the interim report, and I'm looking forward to the next part of the work, which is the analysis. And to date on this committee, we've heard so much that I have to say makes me really proud to represent rural and regional Australia. We've heard so much that it's positive, useful, creative, innovative, visionary, it's exciting. In fact, it's been wonderful to go and visit our communities and hear the members of those communities who have got skin in the game tell us what they're doing, how much they love their community, how much they're inspired by the work that they do, how they create jobs, and how, for many of them, they're building a nation. And as we've travelled around the country, the committee has worked together in a really collegiate fashion. We've shared ideas, and we've just had a very stimulating time, I think, working out, well, what do we do with the information that we've had? And so with this report tonight, it marks the halfway mark. We've done the collection of the data, we've read the submissions, so now we've got to do the analysis. We've got to make sense of what we've heard and make recommendations to the government on what happens next. So I'm delighted the committee is working so well. I'm absolutely impressed by the level of excellence, I think, of the submissions we've heard. But in talking tonight, I actually wanted to bring to the attention of the House that concurrently to our inquiry, the Productivity Commission has also been undertaking a study of the regions. And I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the things that the Productivity Commission have been studying while we've been doing our report. The Productivity Commission report is Transforming Regional Economics, and it was tabled in December 2017. And it provides rich and many useful insights to what the transition in the regions that's been taking place because of the mining boom. But there's 4 particular areas that they highlight that I'd like to talk about tonight. One is the Productivity Commission talks about the role of local government, the role of local leadership, the importance of capacity in our local communities, and the need for rigorous evaluation of how we spend money. And to talk briefly about local government, like colleagues, we all understand how important local government is, but particularly in our regions, in our rural areas. Local government holds us together. It's the form of government most close to the people. And as we were doing our hearings, we were hearing so often how much affected they are by Commonwealth government decisions. And they've really called on the Commonwealth to do a much better job at funding local government, but also listening to them and understanding their particular issues. And I'm delighted to let the House know that as of today, I've tabled a private member's motion calling on the government to pay a lot more attention to how local government is funded. The second area that the Productivity Commission talks about that I'd like to briefly mention tonight is the importance of local leadership. And again, all of us who work in regions know that if you don't have local leaders, you don't have a vibrant community. But to hear the Productivity Commission express how important it is to the dynamics, to the flexibility and resilient regions are those that have got good local leadership, locally engaged people with strong community ownership. And I know that we've got the Australian Rural Leadership Program that does a fantastic job bringing forth leadership. In my own community, we've got the Alpine Valley Communities Leadership Project. And right across Victoria, each of our catchments has a community leadership program that is really doing a fantastic job teaching, creating opportunities for leadership, creating mentorship and bringing forth the leadership that's in our communities. But sadly, I know other states don't have it. Queensland doesn't have a community leadership program. New South Wales, Western Australia did for a bit. South Australia doesn't have it. So one of the things that the Productivity Commission talks about, and I know is really important, is we've got to have a national strategic approach to coordinating and bringing forth leaders in our communities, leaders at all levels, leaders who work on local school councils, hospital boards, church groups, leaders who take a role in the hall committee, in the sports community. So you're just not born a leader. You've actually got to grow into the role, be mentored and learn how it works. And I think we could do a lot of really productive work through a formal leadership program. So good on the Productivity Commission for talking about that. And the third area, just briefly to mention, is capacity. The Productivity Commission talks about where you've got regions where people have got capacity, you're doing well. And we're not only talking about education capacity, though of course that's important, they're talking about the capacity around skilled workforces, where you can get the labour force that you need, where you can employ the people you need, the professionals, the tradies, the community service people you need. And that was one of the things that we found as we travelled around the country, like for Kalgoorlie, for example. Kalgoorlie's got an average age of 31, and their biggest issue is getting access to skilled people to work. Darwin is the same. Up in the Darling Downs, I know it's similar. So there's enormous capacity that's only limited by, not enormous opportunity to grow, but limited by the capacity and the skilled workforce we've got. So we've had so much knowledge, we know so much, and now the real challenge for this committee is to do the analysis, to bring the inquiry home and come up with some really strong recommendations that the government and opposition can agree to that enable us as a country to move forward. And so some of the principles that I hope to see in that final report is a strategic approach based on region strength, that we look at the three levels of government working closely together with communities and business, and that we value add to the work that those three levels of government are already doing. And we did see that perhaps in Launceston is an excellent example where the city deals are being played out. So the idea of regional deals that enables everybody to work together has had a lot of support. And we need to be really, really clear in our understanding that one size doesn't fit all. So when the Commonwealth does a project and it's meant to be for the whole of Australia, we've got to be strong in our voice in saying, have you done a regional impact statement? Do you really understand what the consequences are going to be on the regions for this particular task? And I know just two areas that are dear to my heart where this hasn't happened is the government changes to childcare and the enormous negative impact that's had on women's ability and families' ability to work. And the second area is on the changes to higher education. So I'm pleading with the Minister for Higher Education to do some really productive work on a regional higher education framework that enables us to grow our universities, not distract from them. So in conclusion, I just want to talk about an experience I had a number of years ago when I was chairing the Regional Women's Advisory Council. And that council provided policy advice to the government on rural and regional issues. We had the enormous pleasure of working to John Anderson, who was the relevant minister, and John Howard, who was the Prime Minister. And as the chair, we commissioned a report to look at what made for success in regional Australia. And the two important principles out of that study was it's not actually what government does that has the final impact on success, it's how it does it. And when government works with community, we get success. And I've been so pleased to hear the Prime Minister use that exact phrase when he's been talking about closing the gap. We won't do things to our Indigenous people, we'll do things with our Indigenous people. And it has to be exactly the same with regional Australia. We need to work together in partnership. So in closing, to the Parliament, to my colleagues here tonight, we've got a lot of work to do. I think we're really keen to get on with it, to do the analysis, and hopefully this report will sit in the annals of this Parliament as one fantastic piece of work that really did make a difference to the future of the country.